Welcome back to the Gritty Business Podcast. My name is Matt Moline, and today we've got a special guest, one of the detectives from the MC3 cyber unit from our own Michigan State Police, um, going over what is really happening current day and also into the future as regards to cybersecurity and really getting hopefully a good look into not only what the current state of the cybersecurity landscape is, but just also what can we expect as we get into this year of 2025 and what we can do to obviously protect ourselves. So, Detective, thank you so much for being here today.
Oh, not a problem.
Awesome. Um, First, I think I'd like to start just maybe giving people a good look and maybe a breakdown of how our state law enforcement actually works. Could you maybe just give a little breakdown as far as like um, your role and also just how it
Mhm.
works within our own law enforcement?
Yep. So I am part of the Michigan State Police cyber section. There's two parts to the cyber section. Uh, the part I am with is the Michigan Cyber Command Center. So what we do in the Michigan Cyber Command Center is we investigate network intrusions, such as ransomware incidents, business email compromises, malicious insiders, if it involves IT or malicious activity within the network.
Hmm.
We also do a lot of outreach, training, do a lot of monitoring networks within Michigan. And if we see something that's vulnerable, we may reach out or we try to keep up on current cyber trends and send out information about emerging threats to help protect entities within Michigan. We also we can come out and do like outreach and training with your business, depending on what it is. We're more than happy to come out and do tabletop exercises or like a high level overview of your IT environment to help you secure it or provide suggestions on what you can do to better secure it.
Awesome.
On the other side of the house, we have the it's the ICAC, and we have a bunch of DFAs, digital forensic analysts. So what happens on the other side of the house is any law enforcement agency in the state of Michigan who seizes like electronic evidence with a crime for any investigation they do, they can submit it to us, and we will analyze those electronic devices. And then the ICAC is the Internet Crimes Against Children, and they go after the bad actors who try to take advantage of minor children.
Gotcha. Oh, okay. Thank you for the breakdown on that. Um, can you maybe walk us through um, how you guys actually go and respond to these types of threats? Like how are you notified of an issue? Is it people calling in? Is it through other means? Can you walk us through how you guys respond to those?
It can be many different ways. We get people who call us directly, say, "Hey, this happened." A lot of companies, their IT or emails are kind of intermingled, so we'll get other people saying, "Hey, I just got a phishing email from XYZ company over here. Their email account may be compromised." But we also have a dark web analyst who searches the dark web, and we will find stuff on the dark web, uh, like ransomware groups posting that, "Hey, we just compromised this company. We have this data." At which point we will reach out and that, "Hey, do you know this happened? Um, what can we do to help?" And things of that nature.
Awesome. Um, so multiple different channels going on with that. Is there any like specific resources or tools that you guys are actually using to track cyber criminals that you can talk about with us?
Can't really talk about it. A lot of it is open source.
Okay.
There's also a lot of like information sharing centers we are a part of. So like nationwide, statewide, we have like information sharing centers that basically funnel information to us. And if
Mhm.
we get something, we'll funnel it out to them, and they will get it to the correct state or entity
Okay.
as a part of that.
Um, so how do you guys actually collaborate with like say federal agencies, other local law enforcement, private, partners? Um, what does that relationship look like?
So a lot of the times these crimes, like the ransomware incidents, the business email compromises, the bad actors are overseas.
Right.
So when we come out to a scene, we will collect evidence. And what usually ends up happening is the evidence we collect, we'll reach out to those federal agencies, the FBI, and or Secret Service, and we'll reach out with them and see if, hey, do you guys have an active investigation into this ransomware group or anything related to this business email compromise?
Hmm.
And they will say, yes, we do, or no, we don't. How the FBI works is the first field office that catches a ransomware group or the first one to see a specific group, they are now the lead uh, office for that investigation. And any other uh, compromises that are hit by the same ransom group, all of that info is funneled to the one office because they're
Okay.
the main point on the investigation. So we reach out to our local FBI office. They'll find out who the main office is that leading that, and then we can get with them like, hey, this is the evidence we got. Do you want it? And a lot of times I just end up funneling information to the three-letter agencies, and most of the time we don't hear anything back. But at the same time, those investigations can take 4 or more years to end up going somewhere with something just because there's so much going on with them.
Right. Can imagine. Um, I'm assuming that there's, the length of time. Like you said, there's so much going on, but it. I'm assuming there's issues as far as limits of what you guys can actually, or even what the FBI can do, as far as um, there's different country rules and policies and stuff that we are probably limited to. Is there any like? Can you maybe talk about maybe even more specific to like Michigan, law, or is there any like policies and things within Michigan that maybe hinder our you guys' efforts that it would be good for people to understand and know about?
It's not really policy and law that hinder us in Michigan. It's like when people get compromised, a lot of times they don't want to report it.
That's
Um,
understandable.
so they don't want to be they don't want their dirty laundry out, so they either don't report it to us, or a lot of times in a ransomware incident happens, their insurance company will say, hey, go get us a report number. So they'll
Hmm.
report it to us. And then when insurance gets involved, they bring in their attorneys, they bring in third party response firms,
Hmm.
and the attorneys say, don't talk to the police, which so they report it to us, but then they don't cooperate with the investigation. In
Okay.
our investigation, we're looking at the bad actors. If you think about it like a car crash,
Hmm.
we show up, we're trying to figure out like what happened at the car crash.
Right.
We're trying who was at fault. Um, but at the same time, we can't show up and like put our hands on the keyboards to fix your problem. Like we're not gonna tow your car off to the body shop and start fixing it for you. But
Right.
we're there to get evidence to try to arrest the criminal or whatnot. So these criminals are overseas, but by not helping us or giving us information, we're not able to get these criminals. So now they're just going around just doing this to everybody else, either
Right.
statewide or even around the US and other countries. Without the cooperation, we don't gather the evidence to get the bad guy.
Right. Right. Well, it's definitely important. Um, I guess in just branching off that for just a little bit, if something does happen, whether it's reported to you guys or you find out through one of your channels, is there a process that you would love to see businesses follow in order to one, obviously have you guys get in and gather that data to help hopefully track down these individuals or these groups, um, but also with in mind of getting things back up and running as fast as possible. Is there some tips or some things that you'd like to see people do more of in order to help you guys out?
And in cases like a ransomware incident,
Yeah.
I mean, as soon as you see something, report it to us.
Okay.
Don't shut your devices down because a lot of the evidence lives in RAM, which is a random access memory. And once you shut the device down, we're losing all the evidence.
Mhm.
So the best scenario for that for ransomware incident is start pulling network cables so you're not communicating out to the internet, and notify us. Make sure you have a disaster recovery plan, a business continuity plan in
Mhm.
place so you know what you're going to do in an instance like that as well. And
100%
make
agree
sure
with
you,
that.
make sure you have it. Make sure you practice it. Go through it at least once a year. Um, I mean, we're more than happy to come out and do tabletop exercises to just talk you through what would happen. What's your plan? Okay, this happened. How would you deal with it? What would you do? Work through that at least once a year. Make
Mhm.
just adjustments, make changes, because I mean, nobody's ever going to be ready for it, but you can prepare as best you can.
Right. 100. Yeah, I 100% agree with all of that. Is you said you guys can come out and do tabletop, exercises. Is that something that is just paid through by the state? Like, and in those exercises, what are maybe some of the things benefits that you've seen, and what's been the response to that with our local businesses here in Michigan?
So it's some of the it's a service we offer. It doesn't cost the business anything. Um,
Okay.
so we'll come out, we'll just sit down and talk with you. Um, a lot of times it gets the decision makers in the room because
Yeah.
a lot of time there's a separation between IT and the decision makers, and the decision makers don't want to spend money on IT because they see it just thrown in a black hole. They're not getting any money back or any return on it.
Right. It's
So
hard to hard
if
to hard to
you,
justify an ROI on that sometimes. I get
yep.
that. Yep.
So it gets everybody in the room and talking and brings up a scenario of what would happen. And based on our experience, we could say, hey, this may work, this may not work. And like, how would you continue doing business if you didn't have access to this or if this happened and things of that nature. So it gets the biggest thing it does, it gets everybody in the room and talking, and it can open their eyes to holes in the disaster recovery plan or what they have going on. Or it can
Yeah.
also get the IT staff more money to secure the network or
I
things
can't
like
think
that.
I can't think of a better way to do that. I mean, talk about having good social proof behind, the claims for IT individuals. They obviously are in it day in and day out, but leadership is most of the time not technical, nor do they
Yeah,
understand, that world. But to have, law enforcement come in and say, "Hey, this is real. What they're talking about is legitimate," you know,
yeah.
um, I think I think it's a great piece of advice, coming from you guys that, hey, why don't you use us? We're here, for this reason. We want obviously to reduce the amount of incidences that we're seeing. And oh yeah, by the way, it's also on the rise. But I think it's just a great resource. And I'm glad that you spoke about that because that's definitely something I definitely want to be sharing with people as well. Um, Kind of transitioning just a little bit here. I'd like to kind of maybe understand, a couple things. So one thing I always tell people, because we get, questions all the time of like, it feels like we're always playing maybe catch up in the cyber game. Um, and it is a game of cat and mouse at times. What challenges do you guys, maybe maybe run into on a consistent basis to where, you're trying to stay ahead of all of this? Is there any specific, tactics involved? I'd like to maybe a little more know more of like what types of challenges are you guys, facing in order to really get ahead of the game here?
Well, it's I don't think we're ever going to be ahead of the game. Just
Mm,
like many criminals, it's a cat and mouse. We're always going to be one step behind.
mm,
But it's trying to figure out what that next step is.
yeah,
Because if we figure out how they're getting in or how they're perpetrating their crime, they're just going to find something else to. go around it.
Right.
I mean, the biggest problem I see up and coming is going to be the AI, because you phishing emails can just be made so much better with the use of AI that they're going to be hard to spot, as well as like you can AI can create code or whatever, but the use of AI
Yeah.
is going to make things so much more difficult to spot and handle, and it's just
Yeah.
going to be it's going to put us on our back foot.
I really wanted to bring up this subject with you, and I'm glad that you brought it up first because AI is being talked about so heavily in just many different ways. Obviously, the benefits of it, but the big thing, obviously, in our world is, there's a big issue going on right now in regards to AI. We saw, uh, at least in our world, and I think even you and I talked about it previously too, just the mass explosion in the amount of phishing emails and stuff that you've seen. But the big thing that I wanted to point out was the fact that a lot of these criminals were using things like ChatGPT. Um, and now, just recently in the news, in the last week, we find out that China made its own version, and it's called DeepSeek, and that's an open source program that anybody can have access to now. Um, Issues on privacy and the list goes on, and they did it for substantially less cost than what ChatGPT runs on. So I think there's a lot of concerns on just the use of these types of programs, but also I would say the uh, threat of these organizations and groups in making their own variations. And I think we've even seen some of that already, if I'm not mistaken. But I'd like to understand maybe more of what is maybe your concern, and as well as maybe the overall, concern in regards to the Michigan State Police. I'd love to hear more about that.
So my concern is anything you put into chat GPT or any AI platform, it's no longer secret information.
Yep.
If it's proprietary to your company, if you're putting PII, which is personally identifiable information, I mean that's stored somewhere, and it's going to be out there. So it's going to be potentially accessed by whomever, especially if it's deep seek. I mean, China's recording all that information.
Right.
At
Exactly.
this point in time, I don't see why anybody would want deep seek, because they're going to be capturing everything. Even when you're not using the program, they're probably capturing keystrokes and internet cookies and everything about you. So I would caution anything you put into AI. Basically, treat it like you're putting it in the newspaper,
That's
because
I think
it's
that is the number one thing I've been telling people, and they're like, "Oh, it's all they're talking about all the benefits," and I'm like, "Do you understand? Like, as soon as you put something in, or you upload a document, or you put anything related to business, hopefully it's not anything proprietary or secret. They have it. It's literally opening the door. It's a
yeah
whole nother attack vector, and it's I really want to drive that home to people, and and it's unfortunate that we're for what people are using these AI programs to hopefully gain some sort of competitive edge. They're uh, really like leaving the back door open.
yeah.
Uh, So it's something that we really need to address. What other things out of that are we seeing? I'm kind of curious. Are you guys seeing anything on the um, on the dark web with this type of stuff? I've done my own research and I know enough to be dangerous, but obviously you live this day in and day out. I know there were some GPT variants out there, or maybe there still is, actually, that have the restrictions, that the safeguards that ChatGPT always talks about, like, well, you can't just tell it to build ransomware. But there's been some stuff that I've seen that where it's they've been able to remove those restrictions. Is that true? Is that just fake news? What's your
Uh,
thoughts on that?
there are some programs on the dark web that they can have it write whatever program they want.
Hmm.
Like Chat GPT, obviously they put restrictions on it of what you can do with it. There's other AIs that don't have those restrictions, and malicious actors can do whatever they want with it. They could start doing deep fakes. You put your face on, like get a recording of your voice and make it say whatever you want. And if they start getting like messages or information from CEOs, they can get these deep fakes and make it say what they want. So call the company and said, "Hey, wire money here." So it's concerning.
Absolutely. Have you, in say the last, you know, maybe last 6 months, have you guys have seen anything in relation to that within our state? Or, um, yeah, I guess I'll just ask that.
So not at like a business level. A
Okay.
lot of this stuff is also used to perpetrate like scams on the personal level.
Okay.
So it could come in like we've seen it come in with like a romance scam victim.
Hmm.
So they may uh the overall goal may be to like a business email compromise, divert hundreds of thousands of dollars, but then they got to have someone in the US that has a bank account here to somehow launder that money overseas. So they may use these deep fakes to say, "Hey, I'm whoever, I'm this big celebrity, and apparently you're my girlfriend, boyfriend, or whatever, and can you do this for me?" And then they end up unknowingly laundering money overseas, usually through cryptocurrency.
Okay.
Because that's huge now. To just you can send that anywhere pretty quick, almost instantaneously, a lot cheaper than you can with wire transfers. So a
Right.
lot of times I'll transfer it over to cryptocurrency and then send it out of the U.S.
Gotcha. Gotcha.
Also the bad actors will, if you're a romance scam victim like that, they'll say, "Hey, send me your ID and a picture of your face so I know you're real and you're my real boyfriend, girlfriend." And then the bad actor can use that information to create a cryptocurrency account, and the victim doesn't even know they have it. They don't even know what cryptocurrency is.
Yeah. It's it's really amazing, just how fast all of this is happening too. Um, you were talking more about the individual level. Let's talk about the business side here, because obviously that's what both of us work in. Um, Maybe let's look at this at just another. Let's excuse me. Let me kind of just change the conversation just a little bit. Let's talk about maybe some common things that you guys have seen day in and day out. I'd love to know, at least for the audience to hear, what are maybe some of the most common threats you're seeing impact Michigan businesses today?
So what we're still ransomware is still a threat.
Okay.
The environment is changing a little because it's been a threat for so long. More and more entities they have those offline backups. So when they get ransomware, they're like,
Right.
"I'm not paying."
Right.
So
Just
what's
restore from the
happening?
backup. Right.
Yep. So what's happening now is these ransomware groups, they aren't even going for the encryption. They're just stealing the data and saying, "Hey, I'm going to release this if you don't pay me."
Yeah.
I'm sure
Pure extortion.
you know.
Right.
Yep, it's just pure extortion.
Yep.
And one of the recent examples is the Power School.
Hmm.
That happened within the last couple months. It's a student information system that was accessed by an unauthorized third party, and they essentially stole personal information on 62.4 million students. And that's just not in the US. That's
Wow.
Canada, that's other nations as well. So there was no disruption of service. They just straight up stole the data and said, "Pay us money or we're going to release this, sell it." Um, but again, you they're bad actors. You don't If you pay them, you can't guarantee they're going to delete it, and you can't guarantee they don't keep it and sell it to make more money once you pay
Right.
the ransom.
Right.
And they're probably going to end up selling the information on how they compromised your system. Um, the other big thing we're seeing is the APTs, or advanced persistent threats, like Russia, North Korea. What they are doing is they're going after like industrial control systems or operational technology. Once they get in there, they're using that to traverse the network over to IT,
Hmm.
to get the PII and things like that. And the biggest way they're getting in is a lot of companies still have the default passwords on their OT.
Yes.
And those default passwords, you can find them on Google. So, I mean, if you get passwords, they'll, without changing them, they're right there.
It's basic IT. That's
Yes.
it's basic, and that's what amazes me when I hear about these different breaches in the news. Something as simple as just proper password management and just even, you know, removing, credentials from the Active Directory, people that are no longer with the business. How many times have we seen that scenario?
Oh,
Um, it's definitely crazy. And uh, I don't understand sometimes, the lack of proper just cybersecurity hygiene, when they have, a decent amount invested into their IT. It seems like the basic practices somehow just, dissolve and go away. So I'm not sure what the fix is in that area, other than you just need to really get down to business and follow, a proven plan and framework. Which
yeah,
kind of
that's
brings up at least the one point I want to discuss with you is when you're talking with people about having a disaster recovery plan, an overall business continuity plan, especially when you do those tabletop exercises. Are you guys suggesting any specific like framework, or do you guys offer a framework or a guide basically in order to just some best practices in order to follow for these IT teams?
yeah. So we use a tool CISA has, the CSET.
Hmm.
It's based off the NIST framework, I believe it is.
Yep.
So yeah, we're recommending the NIST framework. It's
Okay.
actually an open source tool.
Yep.
It's available to anybody through CISA if you want to like go through the questions yourself.
Hmm.
So that's what we recommend.
We actually recommend that too. That's something
Yep,
we heavily talk about as well. It seems to be the gold standard, if you will, when it comes to cybersecurity.
yep. Other things, uh, like just do regular network scanning, checking for open ports, ego searching, search your company, see what information is out there about it. If you have a website, don't go putting a employee directory on it.
Right.
Don't go putting like a biography of your CEOs or executive level employees. Because we've called when we've done like tabletop extra, not, I wouldn't say tabletop, but we've like done meetings with companies, and we'll go out there and we'll do some ego searching on that company, and we'll look at, they have a biography of their CEO that they love spending time with their daughter or their dog
Right.
Fluffy or whatever. And we'll just start up the phone call and start talking about them. And they're like, how do you know about this?
It's
It's on the
posted.
internet. It's
Right.
posted. Like,
It's
don't, because you do that, they will know, the bad actors will know how to target. You're just giving them more ammunition for social engineering.
right.
Um, Emails, phone calls, whatever. You're giving them more information. And if you put an employee directory out there, they'll know who's in payroll, who's in accounts payable, and things like that. And they'll know, hey, I'm Jim, I'm this employee. We can send this to payroll. Hey, change my direct deposit to here.
Right.
Just from a Google account. So the less information is better. Our recommendation is put like a general contact us form on your website.
Hmm.
Just one section said, hey, this is who I'm looking for. Then you send the email off to them. If you do that, just make sure it's capturing the IP of who submits it, because it'll only be a matter of time before you get some sort of threat through there, bomb threat, whatever, and you want to be able to capture that IP to be able to track down where or who it came from.
Gotcha. All great advice. I'm curious. You guys work obviously with Michigan businesses, all different types of industries and stuff. Is there maybe a noticeable attack within like specific industries, or does it not matter? Is it just more, there's an open vulnerability and people are finding it? Could you maybe give some insight into that?
Bad actors, they're going after the low hanging fruit,
Hmm.
um, but a lot of times they're going after like finance, real estate, government, construction.
Hmm.
Um, Especially in the summertime between construction and government, you have like remodels of schools and things like that and going on in the summer, and it's easy to jump in between those payments and divert them to a different location. So that's like the ransomware groups are going after that. A lot of the it's advanced persistent threats that they're going to target the government, and they're trying to gather as much information as they can. So
Hmm.
they're going to try to lie in wait and just be quiet and try to glean as much information as they can without being spotted. So
Gotcha.
it also depends on who the bad actor is and what their motivations are. Is it money or is it proprietary information?
Right. Right. Um, what I'd I want to turn the conversation a little bit and start kind of land in the plane, with our conversation. But what I really want to understand here too is that we live in a world right now where artificial intelligence is being talked about many ways, and we talked about that just a little bit ago. But could you maybe give us some insight on maybe what is trending? Where do you think things are going to trend in the next year here as we move through 2025? What we might potentially be seeing in regards to artificial intelligence and cybersecurity?
Well, it's hard to predict the future, but I mean, it's the bad actor. They're gonna use it more and more to try to perfect their how they get into systems and the
Hmm.
social engineering. So I can see a lot more phishing emails that are harder to spot.
Right.
It's harder to determine that they're phishing emails, and that's just going to lead to I would assume an explosion of compromised accounts,
Hmm.
ransomware incidents, and if you can get into one like legitimate account, then they're just going to turn on that one and just perpetrate it more and more.
Right.
So they're going to go after the trusted accounts if they can compromise one,
Right.
and they make these phishing emails look it's just going to look legitimate. It's just going to be an explosion of compromised email accounts.
Yeah. With things like ChatGPT and AI being like just a language model and being able to basically reply, to the conversation and the thread, especially with people that are, out of country and English is maybe not like their first language.
Yeah.
It's really lowering the barrier, that from what I've seen, the barrier to entry into this practice. Um, I think I read somewhere too that I think since ChatGPT came out, I think it was November of 2022. I think we've seen over a 1,200% increase in the amount of, phishing type emails coming into organizations. Um, the concerns like we have, I think a lot of people have, is just that the sheer volume and frequency of this type of stuff happening, um, I would think make us pause and question if the traditional, security systems, the stuff we have in place, are going to really still be effective. Um, any comments on that?
I mean, you could have the best security system in place. It's going to come down to the frontline employee. It's going to be up to them to spot that phishing email and not click on it. I mean, it doesn't matter how good your security is. It's going to come down to the training and education of the frontline employees going through those emails every day.
Yeah, I had a conversation. We did a talk this last year, and one IT director actually said that they said it feels like there's a lot of focus and a lot of emphasis on the individual employee um, to really catch this stuff, and to them that just seems very problematic. And if we're looking to us, was there any recommendations to really limit that? We kind of answered the question of, well, ensuring that you know basic IT things, kind of what we talked about, making sure
Yeah.
like proper password hygiene, two-factor authentication, proper documentation of your systems and things like that. That's obviously going to be a multi-layered approach to assist those individuals. Is there anything else you maybe would add to that?
I mean, make sure you're using unique passwords on every account.
Yeah,
Um, we recommend a password manager. Can't recommend which one. You're gonna have to do your own research on that.
sure.
Being as we're government, we can't recommend businesses or entities or programs to anybody. But make sure your passwords are 16 characters or longer.
Hmm.
Um, but other than that, yeah, just and when it comes down to like employee training with phishing, you're gonna lose them if you keep sending out a phishing email every month. You have to change it up and take different approaches and do
Is there
things like that.
so actually having like actual simulated phishing is what you were talking about, setting out a
Yes.
simulation phishing, and getting a report and seeing who's clicking on what and all of that. And I think that's good. Are you saying more of having a hyper focus on actually doing like actual maybe in-person training or, virtual training with individuals?
Yeah.
Okay.
So we see a lot of companies that do the simulated phishing,
Hmm.
but there's no incentive to do it. A lot of times they'll just get the report back and there's nothing in place to, hey, this person clicked on it twice in a row. We need to go have a talk with them. They need additional training. I mean, it's not about trying to get the employee in trouble. It's about trying to prevent yourself from being compromised.
Right.
But if you just keep sending phishing emails out, they're just going to roll their eyes and just it's
Right.
going to be one of those things. Like if you get 100 emails, you're not going to pay attention to each one. So you need change it up. Phishing emails, do some in-person training. Um, just find some other ways to
Hmm.
try to train them or spot them. Maybe show them some. Maybe send out an example of, hey, we had this come in, or a partner had this come in, just to show them what they're kind of looking like. Maybe obfuscate the link and so they can't click on it and just say, hey, this is a phishing email, and explain the kind of the red flags of it, things
Right.
like that nature, just to change it up.
Right. That sounds awesome. So recommendation from you guys is that, obviously following the NIST framework, the cybersecurity framework, making sure things are in check, making sure you guys are, you have identified all of, the IT assets and then looking in ways to protect them, look for, tools and security tools to detect, potential threats and things coming in, but ultimately looking at, ultimately how you can recover and respond, to those threats is going to be really important. And a big emphasis on, at least from what I'm hearing from you is making sure you're training employees and have a hyper focus on training employees. I think that's for the most part what I'm hearing from you. Is that all accurate?
Yeah, that's 100% accurate. And I mean, in the event you do get compromised, don't be afraid to reach out. Um, we can funnel your information up to the FBI. For critical infrastructure government entities, we have access to it's formerly the Michigan Cyber Civilian Corps, but that kept getting confused with the MC3, with the
Ah,
MyC3. So now it's the Michigan Civilian Corps or Michigan Cyber Corps.
Michigan
They
Cyber
just,
Core. Okay.
yep, they just changed that. But I mean, we have access to that. If you are compromised in your government critical infrastructure, reach out to us. We can send you an email language to kind of activate them, and what they can do is come out and just be more IT staff for you. It's like
Gotcha.
it's like Army National Guard, but they're all civilians. They're all IT professionals. They've all signed NDAs.
Hmm.
So, I mean, they can come out and assist you with hands-on keyboards because that's not something we can do. Um, and Also, don't be afraid to report to us. Again, people don't want their dirty laundry out, but there is a law where, like, cyber related incidents or reports, they're exempt from FOIA, which is the Freedom of Information Act. So you can't, I mean, if we take a report of a business being compromised and the news wants to get a hold of it or some other agency wants to get a hold of it, they can't FOIA that report from us.
Gotcha.
So that is a Michigan law to encourage people to report it. It indicates right in it information that would identify or provide a means of identifying a person that may, as a result of disclosure of the information, become a victim of cybersecurity incident, or that would disclose a person's cybersecurity plans, cybersecurity related practices, procedures, methods, results, or organizational information systems, infrastructure, hardware, or software. So anything related to what happened, what you have in place, it's all exempt from FOIA.
Okay. Gotcha. All good stuff to know. Um, with that last piece of information, I think I'd like to get this, kind of coming to a wrap here. Is there any other last bit of recommendations as we get into this year from the state police, or from just your own thoughts, your own personal thoughts that you'd like to say to the different businesses that tune in here?
Just practice. Bad actors are going after the low hanging fruit. So just, you're doing a lot if you just practice general cyber hygiene, strong passwords, two-factor, unique passwords, do the ego searching. Have I been pawned, to see if your information has been out there,
Hmm.
has been seen in a data breach. Don't use current passwords if you're doing a password check, because that could potentially, again, just like Chat GPT, once you put it in there, it's out there.
100%.
Um, Other than that, if you're interested in like employee training, tabletop exercises, the MC3 puts out like we do cyber snapshots, bi-monthly cyber news. If you want to be put on that list, shoot us an email to mc3@michigan.gov. Letter M as in Mary, C as in Charles, number 3 @michigan.gov. If you want to be put on one of those lists to receive the cyber news, or if you want presentations to your employees, or any of the tabletop exercises.
Gotcha. Perfect. All great stuff. And I'll leave that information also in the video as well, so you guys are able to have that. So, Detective, I really appreciate you taking some time with us today. It's going to be, I think, an interesting year as far as in the world of cybersecurity, and um, just how AI is going to, impact that and what we see. So, I really appreciate the opportunity to sit down and have that conversation with you. And I actually open to connecting with you again at the later part of the year, just to see, what's progressed, since our time here. And it's January 31st today, so let's see what happens in the course of this year. But all great stuff. Thank you very much. Appreciate your time.
Well, not a problem. Have a good day.
You as well. All right.